How do you create a legacy of long-term value? This time on The Culture Hack, we have John Wiehler. He's the president and CEO of Wiehler, and he's going to share with us how he did just that. Come check it out. Hey, it's Adam here, and you're watching The Culture Hack, where we're talking about how to create engaged workspaces that unlock the potential of your teams and drive your business forward in ways you've never seen. So stay tuned. John Wiehler, welcome to The Culture Hack. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Adam. I appreciate being here. It's good to see you in person.
Yeah, right. We met last year and we talked virtually, and now you're here. But you are, of course, the president and CEO of Wiehler.
Yep.
And that's pretty exciting. But first, before we get into it, tell me a little bit about Wiehler.
I think Wiehler's like a really neat family business story. So my dad started Wiehler Mechanical in 1979 because he basically had some friends who told him that he should do their plumbing. And he started definitely as a lifestyle business, and it did really well for him. He was able to latch on to a really good client, Albie Homes. At the time, good relationship with Tom Morrow, and my dad worked for Albie for kind of 32 years and then worked with some other builders at the same time, but Albie was their primary focus.
Okay.
And I started going to work with my dad when I was 4. I had a lot of mechanical aptitude, like handing him tools and stuff like that. I'd sit on his chest while he was hooking up sinks.
Yeah.
And I was kind of always destined to be in the family business.
Gotcha.
My dad asked me if I was serious or not about taking over the business when I was 14. So I imagine I went like, yeah, Dad, I'm serious about taking the business over.
Yeah.
And in 2010, I took it over from him. It was at the bottom of the recession. There was a good lesson learned where just the value of relationships, and now they can sometimes deteriorate during recession. Like in hard economic times, they're not as easy to navigate. And so my dad's business had gone from kind of a high of 6 to 9 employees down to just me and him and one person who was temporary in our office.
Right.
And kind of like long story short, we now have 135 full-time staff, an additional 30 subcontractors. We have like plumbing and sheet metal divisions, which is outside of my realm. And we kind of provide plumbing and sheet metal services for commercial and residential and retail clients across the city of Calgary and into BC.
Okay, I love that. I love this image in my head of, your dad under a sink, like fixing stuff, and you're kind of there, like being super helpful, right?
Right on his chest, right? Like we don't have a photo of it, but like literally, like legs spread, like holding a crescent wrench.
Yeah. I'm ready. Here you go.
Just here you go.
I love that. And your dad built this business. He obviously had a long-term relationship, so I have to imagine that like customer service and how you kind of treated the people you interacted with was very, very important to how he operated.
It was very fundamental. So my dad, definitely a classic tradesperson, so not as able to articulate like what made him successful, but with the benefit of hindsight and really nurturing those relationships that like we still work with some clients in excess of 40 years. Wow. with the same people. And so to really be trained from a very young age that like we honor our work, we honor our client for the long term, that while other companies are looking at 1-year, 2-year warranties, we're looking at standing behind our workmanship for 10 or 15 years, not as like a brand, this is like a legal document, but this is what honor looks like. And really learning that from Albie Homes, from Tom Morrow, that they would stand behind their product.
Right.
Then their expectation from my dad was that he would stand behind his product. And it's been really cool to have some clients, like one client in particular we're very fortunate to work with is like Rockwood Custom Homes. And she, like Alison Grafton, takes that exact same approach, that they're in this for the long term for their clients. And it's neat to see that commitment to the client long term extends beyond like the contract period or the warranty period.
I love that. And that idea, obviously it transferred to you, right? Your dad, in the middle of recession, was kind of, now's the time, here you go.
That's a very diplomatic way of saying it. He was slightly less diplomatic.
Okay, gotcha. Like, couldn't you wait it, or couldn't you have done it like?
I think it like recessions really wear on people. I think it can be very disheartening when you talk about like the value of relationships, the impact on culture, when like money is always important in business. But when margins get squeezed to a point of like either no profitability or negative profitability, right? What are your values? How do you stand behind that? How do you communicate that with both clients and staff? And I think my dad having been through that about 4 times, he had just been like, I just don't want to go through this again.
Well, it's all fine and dandy when things are great. right?
Yep.
You know, people are like, oh, whatever, the values, blah, blah, but then, right? But then you're right, when it comes down to it, when you're faced with a difficult decision, when maybe you're interacting with clients that something's going on or things like recession, things you can't control,
Yeah.
right? Now that's all you got is who you are and what you stand for.
Yep. And then really navigating those harder times, like with our clients, where like the market price comes down, right? So new construction or retail pricing starts coming down, and it absolutely cuts into like, well, if we do the job for this price, like we can't make money. No, nobody can, right? So then how do we work within our staff and our clients to navigate like trying to get work, trying to do work consistently and stand behind it from a reputational standpoint. And that stuff, like, I don't know where you're supposed to learn that. That isn't just doing it. It'd
Right.
be cool if there was a course on that.
Yeah, no, right? In retrospect, if someone had told me that, like, that on the first day, but, you know, it sounds like, you know, it was sort of ingrained into your mindset, this long-term vision. So then when you did take it over, that idea of who you stood for, what your values were, really transferred over to you.
100%. I think in seeing the personal connection that my dad had established with his clients, there was kind of a two-part transition that took place. There's like every small business owner I think goes through this, where like I am the business. They call me, they want John, or they want Marty, and so as the owner, as the guy, you're constantly feeling like, well, I am the one they want, right? But then the more people you serve, and if you have that long-term value, it starts to create this like bigger basket of clients, right? Because you have your older clients, your older clients refer you new clients, but you can no longer serve that client base to the same level as you could have in the past, because I'm only one person. And then to start to go through a transition to say, well, that person doesn't necessarily want or need me individually. They trust that I will be there, or the company will be there for them, that we will meet their needs, and that they're okay with somebody else picking the phone up.
Right.
They're okay with somebody else coming, as long as they get the same like quality or that same satisfaction, right? And then trying to learn how to build a company that supports the ideology of long-term value for the client and commitment and communication without being the man. I think that was a big one that a lot of small business owners can't get over, and my dad really struggled with.
Well, and I think, you know, it's not only difficult, you know, as an organization to try and scale like that, but personally, right? There's a lot of pride. You have relationships with these people. Like, of course, you're going to answer the phone and help them out. So at some point, you know, making that decision to say, yeah, like someone else is coming, but do you know what I mean? Like,
It's the personal side. It's all personal. I think that's one of the hardest parts. Like, I don't know where the narrative came from that we like, oh, I separate like business and personal. Like that's a saying that I've heard, but it doesn't match up with my experience or for myself. But for a lot of my core staff who I've watched go through the same transition, where they've gone from like being that really reliable person on the job site that when they arrive, everybody celebrates, because they know whatever problem that they have is going to be solved because Nick is here, or Dal's here, or Scott's there, Arthur's here, right? And so they get used to that. Then they get their own little clients that people like. There's more and more. They start getting more phone calls after hours, right? And all of a sudden it's this insurmountable thing, because they take that same value for long-term care for their clients, for their friends. And then they have to go through that same transition where now they're not, now they're not going, now John's going. Nick's taking the phone call, but John's going, right? And you watch that personal detachment, because what they feel like is that they're letting their friends and their clients down.
I've long thought about this idea that like your greatest strength can also become an obstacle for you, right? You know, it got you to here, and now it needs to evolve or present in a different way, right?
Well, and I think you're right, because there's a lot of like people who are strong, who build authentic connection, who are good at what they do, and it's easy to equate the direct value that I bring to you, like by like, I delivered this and that's why you like me, right? But then to really recognize that actually fundamentally isn't why people like you, right? It isn't about that product that they're getting. They can get the product in many different places. And it's, well, what else am I bringing to this person, and how do I do that in a meaningful and authentic way? And that's the challenge for not just the ownership, but for leaders as they come up through companies, as they go from more doers to more managers. Like how do you build that for them in a way that they still get that same gratification?
Right. And I'm really excited. We're going to get into that in the next episode. But if someone does want to get a hold of Wiehler, what's the best way?
Wiehler.ca, Wiehler.ca. But no matter how you spell it, you're probably going to find us.
Okay, fantastic. Next episode, we're going to talk about scaling a business and building a culture and how Wiehler grew so big and so fast. So stay tuned. Hey, thanks for watching The Culture Hack. Do you want to chat culture and engagement? Give us a call and come on the show.